What is going on, everybody? It has been a big day for One Bills Drive. That means we have to have a big show. So I've got a whole crew, a whole cast of people up here. I'll start off. Oh, Mookie dropped out. I'm sure he'll be back. James Mallory. James, thanks for joining us. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. How everybody doing, man? Thank you for having me. Let's get it. Y'all know I'm ready.
Fred Kilmartin, a familiar face. Good to have you back, Fred.
Hey, I'm glad to be back, and it's been a busy day today, and another day closer to the NFL season kicking off, so I can't wait. I'm pumped. Let's go, Buffalo.
Hey, he dipped on us real quick, but he's right back as usual. Mookie, how you doing, man?
That answer your question? It's clean now. I had to, it's clean. I had to make sure it was nice and clean before I brought it back because it was a lot of cutting today.
Did you grab a stack of cash too?
Hey. Terms are undisclosed on that.
Well, let's start off with the big news first. The Bills did make a lot of moves today, but the most important being they extended their all-pro cornerback 4 more years, $70 million total, 17.5 per season, a huge contract for Tre'Davious White. James, I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
I'm excited. You know what I mean? Let's lock him up. Let's get that deal done. I just think that was necessary. We had to do it, man. I mean, obviously, he's a baller. My opinion, I think he's the best corner in the league, and then get him for that deal right now before Ramsey signs, I think was brilliant. So I'm all for it. Let's go. Fred?
Absolutely. I am really happy that this deal got done. I'm glad it got done before the season started. So now, we can focus on a couple other players that need to be re-signed or contract extended. I did hear that it was a $55 million guaranteed in that deal. I didn't hear too much on it, but I heard it was $55 million. But I'm happy he's there. Everybody talked before that Trey didn't want to be in Buffalo rather. I seen the kid's face when he was signing. He's happy to be here. This is his home. I'm glad he's locked up for 4 years.
Mookie, what are your impressions?
Well, in the words of Marv Levy, what place would you rather be than right here and right now? Especially for the highest guaranteed money that a cornerback has got. By the way, he's the highest paid cornerback to receive $55 million in guarantees. Grand total of that contract goes to $82 million when you do look at this year, and then when you look at the 5th year, extra option that they picked up. So that extension doesn't kick in until after that 5th year. You know what I mean? Yep. So good job. Another good job by Brandon Beane. As Fred said, that you want to get this job done early because a guy like Jalen Ramsey could have set the market at 20, and then now you got to pay Trey more than that. You know what I mean? So it was a good job for the Bills to go ahead and get this move done. Don't wait to procrastinate on it. Just get the deal done. He's the best cornerback in the league. He obviously, the deal was going to get done. He was their first ever draft pick. You know what I mean? So that deal was going to get done regardless. So I'm glad that they got this out of the way so they can go ahead and focus on football. Maybe Milano is next, depending on what's left in the pot. So we can get this out of the way. This goes to show you that the Buffalo Bills organization are really high on taking care of the guys that take care of them. So hats off. I think it's a win-win on both parties for management and Trey White. Good job. Match made in heaven, and it's good to see that we'll have Trey White here for the next 6 years. Kind of familiar thing, right? He'll be here as long as Coach McDermott will be here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, signed through the 2025 season. You touched on how it was beneficial to both sides. I couldn't agree more because you look at how it benefits Trey White. Obviously, he becomes the highest paid cornerback in football with 17.5. I think he was outpaid. Darius Slay was paid 16.6 when he got his contract.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so he was $1 million over what the top highest paid. Don't get me wrong. I think Trey White is a better cornerback than Darius Slay. But the point being, he's made the highest paid cornerback in football. And the Bills also maintain immediate financial flexibility, which I think is big. You touched on it, Mookie, when it comes to re-signing players like Matt Milano. I think I'm not sure where I stand with re-signing Matt Milano right now, to be quite honest. Because in my opinion, I'm not paying Matt Milano if he's requesting anything between $12 to $14 million per season, given the contracts that you're going to have coming up, such as Tremaine Evans, such as Josh Allen. I mean, assuming Josh Allen, that's going to be a big deal. We just saw Deshaun Watson get a big contract extension today. We all know when Josh Allen's day comes, it's going to be a rich, rich day over there in One Bills Drive for that quarterback. So, hey, immediate financial flexibility, and you extend your all-pro football player. It was a hell of a move. I'm really happy about it. But, James, you were nodding your head when I started talking about extending Matt Milano. I want to know how you feel this affects the extension or the possible extension for Matt Milano in the near future.
It may happen. Me personally, I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I think that's for players down the road. I mean, Edmonds coming up. Then you got Josh Allen coming up. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he gets paid after this year. That's just my opinion. He'll have a big year, you pay him. But me personally, I could be wrong. Me personally, I just don't think they're going to re-sign Milano. Take somebody in the first round, or you sign somebody to replace him way cheaper. I just don't see him paying big money to Matt Milano. That's just me. I don't see it happening at all.
Mookie?
Well, I think this instance that they're going to let Matt Milano test the market. I think. I mean, you got to look at it like we can't. His market value right now is at anywhere between $8 to $12 million. So I don't think the Bills lock him up for that type of money, knowing that you got Tremaine Edmonds waiting in the weeks, and then like you said before, Josh Allen. I think with this contract here gives them some type of cap flexibility because that money that we're talking about Trey White getting, he won't get that until in 2 years. All right. So his contract is still his contract. He's still set to get whatever he's set to get this year. And then he gets whatever, the option picker probably was another $10 million next year. So that 4-year deal doesn't kick in until the 2022 season. That doesn't kick in until then. So I
didn't mean to no meaning to cut you off, but his number for 2020 is, I believe, is 12.1, and 2021 would be 10.88. I think that's what I saw.
Yeah, something like that. Something to that degree. So, I think it gives them that flexibility, but then again, you got the next two guys up is Josh and Trey. After this season, Josh has a great season, and I'm quite sure that he will. He's going to get something similar to a Deshaun Watson. They're going to franchise tag Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds would be franchise tag. He's young, still young, so you can afford to franchise tag him a little bit. He's not going to mind that because he has a payday coming as well. So, and then once that happens, then everybody else is pretty much under contract. When you really look at it, when we get these two guys locked up, everybody is pretty much under contract for a while. So that's another hats off to Bills management, making sure that not only that we're going to keep the guys, around for long term. And, right now they've been successful doing that. So they're coming in at the right time. Everybody is for the most part is young on the roster, and you locking these guys up long term. So they're going to be here for a while. So hopefully that can pan out for success for the Bills for a long period of time. They can keep this thing going. So only 3 guys left. You got Milano, which I think that he's going to test the market, and then you got Josh, who's probably going to get extended next year, and then it's just the waiting game with Maine Savage. So right now, I'm really ecstatic about the moves that's being made today.
Fred?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is another sign of the culture change in Buffalo, retaining our own, keeping this team together. And this is another core player that you want to keep there. Another young player, you're going to wrap them up for another 4 years. And like I said, I think this is that culture change. I know a lot of Bills Mafia is not used to this. A lot of times we have a great player come in there. They did their 3-4 years, and we couldn't retain them. Brandon Beane is doing some magic up there with that pen. I don't know what he's taking in a wizard school or something, but the way he's working these contracts, it is giving us some flexibility. We are retaining these players, and it's really good to see. And again, it goes along that culture that they're developing up in Buffalo. McDermott said it when he first came in to be the head coach. He's not building a team for 1 year wonder. He's building to be a contender year after year after year. And this is another step in that direction.
I felt like the wrinkle in this contract, because we keep talking about it, the next 2 seasons essentially. So 2020, 2021, Trey White's making the same money he was going to make, scheduled to make last December, or after he had signed his 5th year extension, if you will. And that, I think that is a huge nod from Trey White to show a sign of faith in the management in Buffalo, in where this team is going, the future it has. It's also a sign of faith in himself to stay healthy, so that he's there to make that money in 2022 when this contract kicks in. And we really never would have seen any player do that for the Bills in years past. Correct me if I'm wrong. When the order was completely different, when it's during the drought era, the team hadn't done nothing for 20 years, and it was nothing but miserableness and dark clouds over what was Ralph Wilson Stadium. That's really all it was. You would never even imagine a player taking 2 years away from his money. So it'll be 2 more years till he makes that money. That's $17.5 million per season. And now, hey, he did his team a favor by holding on to the money that he'll make this season and next season, and then it kicks in 2022. I think that it was extremely smart by Brandon Beane, but it was also very selfless by Tre'Davious White, because there's a lot of players in that position that would have done the inverse and would have tested the market and went and got their money immediately. But Trey White chose to stick with Buffalo and showed a sign of faith to this front office and this organization.
Well, let's be honest here too. Trey White isn't a fool. He's a very smart man.
Yep.
And who knows what's going to happen with the salary cap. So right now is the time. If that money's offered there, you take it, because if the salary cap don't go up like it's anticipated, everybody market changes. So he's not a fool. So if that 17.5 is there, you take it and you run with it. Greed to come back and bite you in the behind, and God forbid an injury. So that 17.5 was there, and you don't know what's going to happen with the salary cap. You better take that and go ahead and keep it moving, because we don't know what's going to happen. Let's be honest. We don't know. So, that was a business move. Yeah, I believe he wanted to be here. I think he was going to sign, but that was a business move. If this didn't happen with this pandemic, I'm willing to bet he would have waited after a season and demanded 20.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, James, on that one. And he is a family guy, so he's big on family. So he's looking out for his family right now. So that was a business decision and probably a family decision at the same time. But you're absolutely right. If the season doesn't get completed, the cap is going to change next year. So he might not have got that money. So you got to take it while you can.
Yeah, you definitely got to take the money when it's there now. Got to get the job done. It gives him everything he wants. It gives him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL right now. Until, that might be over with come tomorrow when Jalen Ramsey sign his and the next guy up sign his. But at the end of the day, the Bills are recognizing him as such right now. So, now it's just all the focus on is just playing football and, winning championships now. You got your bag. The worst is over. The Bills are rewarding him for, not opting out. Okay, we understand what's going on and what happened with you and your family, but we're going to take care of you, and this is what the Bills mean about taking care of their own. All right, we're not going to play. We're not here to play hardball with you. You come in here and you thrive in our system. We're going to take care of you, and so far so good. This is what the Bills have done. And even the thing with the Steph Diggs situation, everybody's talking, well, is he going to hold out for more money? No, we're just going to give him a raise. Give him a few more million. Come on in here, Steph. We're going to pay you right now, one of the top guys. So we ain't got to worry about you talking about money at the end. We're still going to honor your contract, but here's a little bit more now to even kill the curiosity of you even doing such thing. All right. So the Bills are in a good position. They're taking care of their guys. And right now it's all about, focusing on winning this division right now.
Right. Now, to be quite honest, there weren't a ton of overly shocking moves that happened today, in my opinion. But I think the most shocking was the move that wasn't made. Trent Murphy is still on the Bills roster after 53-man cutdown. I don't know how. I don't know why. Can you bring some clarity as to why Trent Murphy is still on the Bills?
I told you. I said it the other day. And I was I told you I was on the cusp with it because, maybe this could be the year when you put guys around Trent Murphy. Can he excel? Some guys play better around other good guys. You know what I mean? And that's the high. I guess their craft, if you will. Some guys can't do it all alone. Some guys need other guys to play well. Okay, so maybe this might be it for Trent Murphy. That's why I say when you look at it, when I took from the scrimmage, I was like, well, I mean, he got no choice but to make plays with such and such and such and such is getting doubled, So he has no choice but to be a dog. I mean, at a certain point, it's going to consume you. Excuse me, for $8 million. Okay, yeah, it's a hefty number, and we know that we can get that money back from him. We could be Scrooge McDuck and take that money back from him. Okay, saying that he's not worthy of that money at this point, but the Bills could stand the $8 million if he flops this year. They still can stand that $8 million. Now it's just that you got a guy that's still good for your locker room. You have a veteran guy who knows your system, and it's a pandemic going on. So once again, I pounded. They just stuck with what they know right here. He's just too valuable to let go right now because everything is still so uncertain. Something can happen with one of those defensive linemen. Who are you going to replace him with? Maybe AJ Espinosa ain't ready to take over at this point as far as being in a rotation. Who knows? So right now, Trent Murphy survives the island. I'm cool with that. It could change. Obviously, it can change if somebody else gets cut and looks more reasonable to become here other than Trent, then that's where you might see Trent get cut. But right now, Trent Murphy is surviving the island, baby.
I love it. And guess what? Trent Murphy is just a good old Irish boy. So to see him up here, I think a lot of it had to do with him towards the end of last season. He's finally healthy. He made some plays. I mean, he was in there stopping the run. He made some plays in the playoff game. He was actually motoring throughout that whole game, making plays. So I think that's what kept him. Was what he did last year is what kept him on the roster. Trust me, I went through all day looking. I was waiting to see Trent Murphy released. And I even reached out to Clayton. I'm like, you see anything on Murphy? I haven't seen anything. And he's like, no, he's there. So I'm glad he's there. And like you say, Mookie, he's finally healthy. And now maybe you put some talent around him. Maybe that's where he's going to excel as well.
Mm-hmm. That's where it's at. When you look at that line, that defensive front is beast. And Jerry Hughes went on and said about that new come front. I don't know, he gave y'all that good plug.
They're gonna bring it.
Jerry Hughes, talked about having that new pro front 2.0. And right now Trent Murphy is a part of it. Right now he's a part of it. So I can't be mad either way with that. I see my guy Mike Love made that squad too.
James, what were your thoughts about the retention of Trent Murphy? Did you expect it or no?
I was so up in there. I'm with Mookie. I wouldn't have been surprised either way. But honestly, I think what they're saying is, listen, we about to get after it. You got you deep at defensive end. Deep. You can rotate these dudes, and there's no telling who coming after you. So, I like it. He's not your main guy. He's not your number one guy. But, as a rotational guy, this dude come in and give us 5 sacks on the season. Who's going to complain? We know it's not worth $8 million. But at the end of the day, if that brings us 11, 12 wins, who's going to complain? He's going to get after it. We know Addison and we know Jerry Hughes. Them dudes, they ballers. They're going to play 150%, when they on the field. And then you bring in we're not talking about the 1 tech and 3 tech. Once you talk about those guys with the push up the middle, and then you bring the guys up the edge, that's something dangerous. So, I think like Mookie said, he's probably a guy that plays with better guys around him. That's what it is. He's just gonna piggyback off the other guys. That's all that's gonna happen. Mario Addison, he's gonna bring it. I think he's gonna have 10 plus sacks this year, in my opinion, my prediction. And then you put Trent Murphy in there. I think he's going to be all right. I'm not mad at the move at all. I'm not mad at all.
Don't get me wrong. When I woke up today, I was expecting Trent Murphy to be one of the first names I saw across my Twitter feed, whether he had been traded, cut, or what have you. I did not expect him to stick on this roster. But you know what? Whether he was on the roster or not, the Bills have the deepest defensive line, defensive end, interior defensive linemen, defensive ends. They have everything on that defensive line, top to bottom. They have starting caliber linemen from the top to bottom, aside from Daryl Johnson, maybe. And even he's a physical, prototypical freak. I mean, you're talking about the deepest defensive line in football alongside the deepest offensive line in football. The games are won in the trenches. The Bills, I mean, ever since Sean McDermott came to Buffalo, the one bugaboo with the Bills defense, which has always been good. It's been good ever since he came to Buffalo. But the one bugaboo has always been the run defense. And you look at this defensive line, and you look at the fast athletic linebackers that are going to stand right behind him. Tell me how this defense is not going to be able to stop the run this season with the amount of versatility they have up front, with how many bodies they have up front, with the effectiveness and the efficiency that these players can play with. This is a deep defensive line. This is a crazy defensive line. And it's going to be a fun season. And as you guys touched on, this is a perfect situation for not just Trent Murphy to thrive, where offensive lines and offensive coordinators have to focus on other defensive linemen, but also Jerry Hughes. I think both of those guys are going to have bounce back seasons, if you will, because Jerry Hughes, he was playing with an injury last season, but we haven't really seen the effect of Jerry Hughes ever since he had a stacked defensive line to his left and right, like you alluded to, Mookie, with old Cold Front, with Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams, and Mario Williams opposite him. So it's definitely going to be fun to see what these guys can do with the stacked talent they have along the defensive line.
Absolutely. That defensive line, I'm telling you, look out for it. I mean, so, the biggest thing about it, Trent Murphy still surviving the island, baby. He survives the island for now.
I mean, that was the most surprising move for me today. But Duke Williams isn't on this roster anymore.
Until he was the first one. He was the first one. I'm like, damn.
Like they didn't even cut. They didn't even.
I called it. I called it on our podcast. I called it on the Yak podcast. I knew Duke was gone. I just didn't see him making the roster.
I actually thought it was going to be McKenzie or Duke, be honest with you. I just thought that Gabriel Davis was making too much noise in training camp. I mean, the plays that he was making, there was no way you couldn't put this kid on the roster. Even if you put him on there and let him learn, there's no way you couldn't do that. I just think that where they drafted Gabriel Davis and Isaiah Hopkins, I just think that you can't let these guys go on the practice squad. I think they got to have an opportunity to make plays. And they're only going to help Josh Allen. With the size I have and the fact that they high point the ball so well, Josh can just throw the ball around them. They're going to come down with it. So Duke Williams, I mean, we talked to him. Clayton, remember we talked to him up in Batavia, and he said that the NFL was really fast and that he was still adjusting to playing in the NFL from playing in Canada. So, I mean, he didn't adjust well. I mean, I thought he was a great guy. I'm kind of glad McKenzie's there. I think that, he's probably going to be a factor now in the special teams as well on the returns. But I hate to see Duke go, but these two studs that we picked up, they're going to be ballers for us.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the Bills were going to take 7 receivers, but I had McKenzie being an odd guy out in Duke's stand just because of, the tremendous upside with 6'3", 225, the success he had late in the season. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, he had a solid camp. But once again, it's competition. And the common denominator when you really look at it is he wasn't drafted by the Bills. Mm-hmm. All right, he wasn't drafted by those guys. And when you look at the pattern of Bills, normally that the guys that they draft, they keep around. They don't really cut guys that they draft because, once again, I'm just going off of what GM Brandon Bing told me. In those meat and potato rounds, you are looking for a guy who can compete for a roster spot or potentially push that starter to become a starter. So, that strike in my mind, Gabe Davis, that strike in my mind, Isaiah Hopkins at some point. These are Josh Allen's new toys. So you better get used to your new toys right away because Next year, you got Smoke Brown, you got Beasley on the wrong side of 30. Stephon Diggs is fine. He's your number one guy. So those are the new virtual replacements for Beasley, for Smoke Brown eventually. So you got to get used to those guys right now. There's no reason to have them on a practice squad. They're going to make the roster and learn that way. So that's how I knew that the Bills were going to keep 7 guys, but Andre Roberts was really the shocker for me. So that explains why McKenzie made it over Duke. You know what I mean? So it all boils down to that. So either way, you win some, you lose some, but the roster still looks good, and I'm quite sure that these guys know what they're doing.
Now
Duke still
I
got
have
practice squad eligibility too, by the way.
Right.
He still has practice squad eligibility.
I have to chime in here with that it was reported that they intend to re-sign. Right, they intend to re-sign him back tomorrow. Now, I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts on that as to whether I'm not quite sure why they did that. I feel like it's because they have to wait until 4 p.m. to designate some players to the injured reserve, and they gain a roster spot when they send them to IR. So I'm just curious if any of you have any inclination as to why they cut Roberts today just to sign him back tomorrow. Same with Dean Marlowe.
Dean Marlowe, yeah.
This is what they did. Hey, Roberts, you see this? You see this? You see this, Roberts? You see this $2 million? You see this?
Yeah.
Call us tomorrow, okay? Call us tomorrow. But today, you don't got no contract. Tomorrow, give us a call. We'll give you a new deal. We just freed up probably like $1.5 million by just ripping that thing up. Tomorrow,
clean slate.
They're doing what they did to Jerome Felton. They're doing what they did to Jerome Felton a couple years ago. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know why Isaiah McKenzie made this roster. I just don't. I don't get it. I don't think he should have made this team. Honestly, I would have preferred seeing Duke Williams on the team over him, to be quite honest, because I know what Duke Williams brings to the table that a couple other receivers in that receiving room don't, to be quite honest. That's size, that's the attitude, that's mentality. Isaiah McKenzie, a lot of guys in the room can do the same things he can do and do 10 other things a whole lot better, such as Stephon Diggs and John Brown.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
That I disagree with.
Duke Williams, you're right, but Duke Williams can't do the things that McKenzie does. So that was the difference. That was the difference. You're right. Guys can do some of the things, but Duke Williams can't do
weapon.
What McKenzie does. McKenzie is a little bit more dimensional than Duke Williams. Duke Williams, like you said, is 6'3", 225. He's more or less of a big target red zone guy. But McKenzie, he's a gadget guy. He has the speed to get out. He could do a little bit more with McKenzie. And on top of that, he's probably a backup on punt returns or kick returns. So he's an asset in the special teams division. Something that Duke can't hold a roster spot. That explains why Duke was inactive for all that time, because they needed guys on special teams and Duke wasn't on special teams. So he was inactive for most of the year. McKenzie was active. He was in the sauce. He was in the offense. So he's more familiar to that offense than Duke is. So he's a little bit more valuable that way.
Yeah, I just think, and he was on my projections. I had Isaiah McKenzie making the team because of what he do. He bring a lot to the table, man. I mean, he does. I mean, think about it. We lined him up at running back a couple plays last year, and let's not forget,
cornerback.
Let's not forget who lined up cornerback as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can
that's right.
only can dress 46 on game day, man. You got to have guys that be able to adjust on the fly. Duke Williams cannot do that. And I mean, I love Duke, but let's be real. He had a few opportunities to really take things over, and he just didn't do it. I mean, how long are you going to wait for a 27-year-old guy to be like, okay, have this aha moment when you got Hodges and then you got Davis that you just drafted? Like, hey, we invested in these guys. Let's roll with these dudes. I just think, I mean, his time was up. Not saying he's a bad player, but you got, I mean, what are you really missing when you let Duke go? I mean, honestly, what are you really missing? I mean, Davis, the rookie, is going to bring that size. And I mean, once again, we always hear Duke had a good catch today in practice. Mookie, you've seen practice. I know you can't talk about it too much, but Duke will have a good catch. Davis has good practices. It's a difference. It's a big difference, Mookie. You know this. It's a big difference between having a good catch that you can post on Twitter and this guy just balling the whole day. You know, and Davis, you hear consistently, he's having great days, not great catches, great days. There's a big difference. You know, we need production out there, and I think we had to go that route. And then with McKenzie, I just think it's so much, reverses, returning punts, returning kicks, just in case Roberts get hurt. You line him up at DB, line him up at running back. I mean, I love what he does and what he brings to the table, man. That's very, very valuable in the NFL when you only dress 46 on game day.
Yeah, and as long as we keep McKenzie and we let him go out on some punt returns, that'll keep Micah Hyde off punt returns. So I'm happy with that. No, I do like McKenzie's attitude. I do like that he's a worker. You know, he's not a big guy, but he comes out and he plays big. And like you say, he made tons of plays for us last year when we needed him. When we were in a bind, we needed a big play. It seemed like McKenzie was the guy that was making that big play. So he earned his spot. He came in and worked, and he earned it.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to say about McKenzie, he's fast, okay?
Yes.
So, Duke ain't fast. McKenzie is fast. So, at the end of the day, that's what it boiled down to. He was a little bit more of an asset than Duke was, and Duke still has practice squad eligibility. And, 9 times out of 10, if the Jets don't pick him up, he'll be right back here. he'll be right on the roster again. He's not going to go anywhere. So, I think the Bills really put their heads together on this one and really thought it out to the final minute to, trim this roster down to 53. And it's going to be interesting to see who they're going to designate as those 4 untouchable guys on a week-to-week basis. After, you get the chance to sign your practice squad, in the days coming. So, right now, you really don't have nothing bad to say about the moves they made other than, hey, I was a big fan of Duke. I was rooting for Duke to make the squad. It was a long shot. But he still has time to develop on the practice squad. Now, mind you, he is 27 years old, and he spent majority of his time in the CFL. So, he still has some things to develop and learn. So that's why I think he's going to be on the practice squad. Robert Foster, they was trying to trade him. They couldn't find a suitor, so they ended up releasing him. He still has practice squad eligibility as well. So the things that you heard about these guys potentially happen did actually happen. So it wasn't like that to say, hey, we told you so. We knew, but we just had to let the competition sort it out. And, right now, those draft picks came in. And like Brandon Bean said, can he push a starter? Can he push a guy for a spot? And they most certainly did. They came in there and they pushed these guys for that spot. Right now, they in those spots. So the other 2 is out. There's new guys up. It's a new movement going on, a youth movement. As far as this offense goes, you look at the youth in this offense. Other than Beasley and Smoke, you got Steph at 26. You got 2 rookie wide receivers. You got Singletary's in his second year. You got Zach Moss that's in his first year. And you got Dawson Knox that's in his second year. You got Josh Allen that's going into, his third year? So this offensive weaponry is very, very young. So they're putting this thing together real good at the right time. So, if this offense do what everybody think is going to do, then the Buffalo Bills is going to be, some division champions for a long time. It's going to go back. It just reset itself back in how the early 90s was, when it's automatic for us to win these things now. So goalposts and stuff like that coming down. You know what I mean? So
that's boring stuff to me, man. All you guys can remember that and have all the fun you want. I don't know what any of it's like. But,
yeah, I forgot. I'm telling my age right now. Yeah,
not even though. Like, you're telling my age right now.
When you win the division, the goalposts come down. That's just that is Bill's law. All right, that is Bill's law. No matter what, I don't care if we win it every year. Then damn goalposts come down when we clinch it.
You're gonna have 10 people trying to rip them down this year, man.
I'm telling you, the fans started that. The Bills fans started that. Nobody tears the goalposts down, for winning the division. Guarantee you, the day that this year when the Bills won the division, that damn goalpost is coming down, buddy. You better
All Bills Mafia is listening to Mookie right now, setting their clocks, and they're gonna be up there now.
Just make sure you got your mask on. That's all I can say.
Really with these moves at the wide receiver position, seeing the players cut who were cut today, it really kind of felt like to me the embodiment of the rebuilding and overhaul of that wide receiver room over the last 2 seasons. Because you're talking about Robert Foster, who was formerly the Bills' second best wide receiver. Isaiah McKenzie, who, he made the team, but he also used to be one of the Bills' 2 or 3 best wide receivers when he was brought in off the Denver Broncos practice squad. Mm-hmm. And now you see a room that from top to bottom where these guys, we're talking about them getting cut. We're talking about Duke Williams getting cut, Robert Foster getting cut. I mean, I was kind of disappointed to see Robert Foster go. I liked Robert Foster. I liked the potential he had going into last season, but obviously none of it really came to fruition for whatever reason. But I kind of wish they could have found a trade suitor for him.
Why he didn't produce in Alabama. Stories behind
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day.
But we ain't going to get into it, but there's reasons why some people just don't develop and blossom.
Let's get into it.
I mean, anything that Robert Foster disappeared last year on offense.
Brian Dable.
I mean, you blame Dable or you blame the kid. I mean, I'm saying he disappeared.
I blame them both, but Dable did not do him any favors.
Right. I mean, with the whole left side of the field.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to cut you off, Fred, but
no, you're good.
You're a professional athlete. When your time comes, you got to be ready. Point blank, period. I mean, the coach cannot spoon feed you. Yeah, the coach does have something to do with it, but when that time comes, you got to ball.
Yep.
Nothing to talk about.
Right. The greatest ability is availability.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is something that's been plaguing Robert Foster in Alabama. Now, here's a guy that was one of the top receivers coming out of high school. You know what I mean? But he has a Band-Aid by his name. And those injuries continue to plague him throughout the year. I mean, when he came in and had that good year, it was up here for him. The limitations, okay, we got another year with Robert Foster. He's going to be our guy. He got hurt. He got hurt. And when you get hurt, that kind of set everything back. Your development, because now you're rehabbing and trying to get healthy. Then another injuries come around. So stuff like that keeps you off the field. And then if that's keeping you off the field, you can't make plays. If you can't make plays, then they have to bring somebody else in to come and make those plays. So now you're falling behind the depth chart now. And you're expendable because it's not costing us nothing to get rid of you. They brought you in as an undrafted free agent. So it's not gonna hurt them get rid of you one way or the other. And you still have practice squad eligibility to develop those hands because you need to, work on those hands. See how my man Wesley Cutdown just chimed in. He needs to work on those hands. He's fast as hell. Yes, he is. But he lacks concentration on locking in that football at times. And, that's how you drop the easy passes, something that Dawson Knox is having a little trouble with. But Robert Foster is a little too fast for his own good. He's fast as shit, but when that ball get up on you quick, he's not locking in on it. And that's what's separate. That's what's prompting the 2 receivers getting drafted this year and bringing in Stephon Diggs. So the Bills is not going to just – you got Josh Allen now. You got a franchise guy. So you got to put the pieces around him. They had ample opportunity to become those pieces. It's just not panning out. So you got to go in and, hey, let's finally draft some guys. All right, and let's go ahead and get this dog out here in Minnesota. We already got 2 savvy vets in Smoke and Sauce. They proved to thrive in the system last year. They both thrived. They both excelled in their first year. They're fine. But the rest of these guys are dead weight at this point. How can we make this offense better? And the Bills have done that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next man up.
Absolutely.
With the, I guess you could say, disappointment of the fizzling out of Robert Foster's Bills career, I also had some excitement today because Reggie Gilliam made the team, the tight end / fullback / H-back / special. He made the team. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it.
Yep.
James.
I called it when you guys show after the draft. I called it. Said Reggie Gilliam will be on this team. I predicted that he will be the starting fullback. I was a little wrong because they moved him to tight end. But I'm a little familiar with him because my younger brother played with him at Toledo. And my brother said as soon as they signed him, he said, Reggie, a beast. First thing out of his mouth. He said Reggie was a beast. He's like, yo, man, he no joke with blocking kicks. So when I heard that and I knew DeMarco's age, to me, I'm just like, it's probably time for a change right there. So I'm excited for him, man. I mean, the kid is a great story. He walked on that Toledo. He rose to the occasion and balled out. And he's gonna bring a lot to special teams. He's a great locker room guy. He's a great kid. And he's a baller, man. He ain't no Kool-Aid bumping on the left side of his chest, man. He gonna come and he gonna play. He gonna play. And I'm happy we got that kid on the roster, man. That people really gonna see. My brother, like me, he a hard critic. So if he say he can ball, he can ball.
Brett?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, now he's going to be coming in. He's going to be the fourth tight end. Whether we use him as the fullback type, H-back, I mean, this could spell the last hurrah for DeMarco on this roster. Because now we don't have to pay the fullback. Now you got this guy that's going to come in and take his spot. Undrafted, he's a little bit cheaper. And, now we can groom him any way we want.
Mook?
Well, I knew that he, just based upon my research with, what James was saying, him coming out of there and the things that he's done from a special team standpoint at Toledo. And then the guy is literally like a hybrid freak at, tight end and fullback. And what threw me off is when they just made that switch of position so late in towards training camp. And then, coach went on to say that, hey, he still has ways to go. And he still has some ways to learn on some things. And then you seen that position change. That kind of threw me off. So I was like, well, maybe he's on the bubble. I know that he was going to be practice squad for sure. But I was like, well, maybe he's on the bubble due to this position change. He's having a hard time grasping what they are asking for out of a fullback, So, but I was excited to see that he made the team. And, once again, he's a dynamic guy. And I said on the show CG before, once you see this roster is going to let you know how really injured guys are. And right now, DeMarco is on the IR. He's not on the PUP. He's on the IR. So that means he's done for the season.
He's done. Yeah.
This could possibly.
Oh, they didn't put him on short-term IR?
No, he's IR.
No, they put him on IR before cut, so he's done.
This could be potentially. We're talking about a neck here. So if he's on the IR, that means you're done for the season. This could potentially be a career-ending injury. Who knows the extent of it now at this point? Now that we know that it's clearly IR and not PUP, meaning that he still has a chance to be activated and play at some point. IR means you're done for the season. You know what I mean? So who knows the extent of that? Can it be an injury settlement waiver coming up for DeMarco?
Yeah.
And the Bills are just not going to carry any fullbacks on their roster, so to speak. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag with that because I am sworn to secrecy to keep certain 14 classified, and I will. You just have to see it on week 1. You know what I mean?
You don't want to end up like somebody else, man.
You don't have to.
we trust you.
Well,
hey, I ain't trying to get what it is.
Gilliam. Hey, Mookie,
no.
Gilliam is I'm thinking of Charles Clay role, what they did with Charles Clay in Miami. If you remember, Charles Clay, was a fullback and they moved him to tight end. So Gilliam, I'm thinking maybe switching him to 80s number and listing him as a tight end because where he's going to line up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thinking. I don't know, but I'm just thinking of something like that. I think he's going to be the H-back.
Now, I'm gonna try out this last name. I'm gonna butcher it. I'm sorry. Wesley Kukendall. Gilliam reminds me a lot about Chris Cooley type of player. I love the comparison. I love that comparison because I think Chris Cooley came in the league as a fullback, didn't he? Yeah. Didn't he for the Redskins? Yeah, I believe he came in as a fullback. Injuries caught up with him there towards the end, but he was a hell of a player. And James mentioned Charles Clay. That I talked to Mookie about that the other night when we went live. I'd love if he could have that kind of ceiling to be like Charles Clay coming as. Hey, nobody expected. I don't personally. He was my favorite UDFA to be signed, other than Trey Adams. He was one of my favorites. Just seeing what he did at Toledo, the kind of things he brought to special teams, just seeing how well-rounded he was. I knew that I wasn't shocked that this was the type of player that the Bills went out and signed after the draft had come to a conclusion. because you're talking about what he brings on special teams, and he can be and he can be a blocker, and he can be a receiving threat, and really a player who's just an athlete. He can run what, a 4.4, a 4.52, a 4.52.
He ran 4.58, I believe it was.
4.58. Okay, I was close, but a 4.58. That's a hell of a lot faster than Pat DeMarco running those wheel routes in Houston in the playoff game. I can tell you that much. 4.58 is a hell of a lot faster than what Pat DeMarco was running out there in spread. So I feel a little more comfortable whether this guy is designated as a fullback, tight end, an H-back. He's an athlete for this offense. He's going to be an asset to this offense, more so than I feel than Pat DeMarco would have been in any situation that he was placed on the field for this Bills offense. So I'm ecstatic that Reggie Gilliam made this team. He's probably a player that I'm the most excited about to make this team, and a player that I was really happy to see him make the team, Terrell Dodson. I believe he was a UDFA last year as well, and he ran into a bit of an unfortunate circumstance. And the comeback story to come back and make the team in the 2020 season, the season after what had happened last year, I think that's tremendous. That takes a lot to make the football team and bounce back, especially in a position. I mean, the Bills aren't overly deep, but there was definitely competition. Corey Thompson made this team last year for a reason. They signed Vashawn Joseph for a reason, they drafted Vashawn Joseph for a reason. And he came in here as an undrafted free agent who had some baggage from years past, whether it came out as true or untrue, what have you. He still had baggage. There were still things looming around him in his career. And he came in here, he competed, and he won a job, and he won a spot on this team. I'm excited to see what he can bring to not only the defense, if he goes out there. I mean, obviously Milano and Edmonds are their main guys, and then you have Klein and Matakevich. But I'm excited to see what he can bring to the special teams unit.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at it, you got Vashawn Joseph, and then you had Dobson. All right, these are two of the guys that they were banking on, in the event of, Lorenzo Alexander retiring and, the potential of Matt Milano not re-signing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I chimed in, and I talked about those two, a couple days ago, and I said that Vashawn was on a bubble, but those guys will make it because they stick with what they know. And then I thought about it. The writing was on the wall, and it was, still shopping for linebackers when Darren Lee was brought in for a workout. Obviously, they made this late trade with Andre Smith to see what he could bring to the table. So there was some uncertainty with that linebacker core. Now, Dobson is, you heard his name throughout camp. And the Bills did a tremendous job on manicuring that situation that he got into last year. They're going to do the same thing with your guy Fromm. They're going to do the same thing with him as well. So for him just to get down to football and thrive the way he did, he's most deserving of the job. Yeah, I mean, basically he beat out Vashawn Joseph. So my hat goes off to Terrell. Job well done. And then, Vashawn Joseph, here's a guy who's just been battling injury and just couldn't regain what he had in college at this point. He still has practice squad eligibility. So he'd be another guy that probably be called in on the practice squad because, once again, the Bills like to keep the guys that they draft. All right. Very seldomly do you see them just cutting guys that they pick. All right. So it's still a process with Vashawn. He potentially could go on the practice squad as well. But yes, Tyrell Dobson, good job. I think it's real solid to have him. He was a stud at Texas, and another steal. He should have got drafted. I still don't know how he didn't get drafted. But I'm happy to hear that he's at One Bills Drive. That's for sure.
James, my bad, my mic was off.
I don't know much about him. I know he was a baller in college. I think let's see. I haven't got a chance to really see him play, unfortunately, so I can't really speak too much on it. But I mean, he lined up and he got guys cut. So I mean, he balled out. He lined up and he went head to head with him and he beat him. So that speaks a lot for me. So he got to be a baller. I'm interested to see what he's gonna do. I know what he did in college, and like Mookie said, I actually thought he was drafted when we got him. I'm like, wait, what? So it was a surprise. So if he can live up to that, we got a player. We got a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually surprised he knocked Corey Thompson off this roster too, because Corey Thompson, he was the guy that came in. Anybody was injured, he was right in there. So I was surprised that he actually worked hard enough to knock off both those linebackers. So he's probably going to come in as the fourth. I don't know if they'll use him much on special teams, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that depth at linebacker with someone like him. As hard as he worked, and hopefully his little issue from last year, he doesn't have no issues this year with that. So no, I'm happy that the kid made the roster.
Another surprise guy, Del'Shawn Phillips. Who would have known that he would have made the squad? You know, that's the thing out there. Who would have known that Del'Shawn Phillips, number 43, would have made the roster? You know what I mean? But he made the roster. You got to look at those special teams win factor. You look at these guys. Oh, your fourth and fifth linebacker has to play special teams. So those decisions are probably based upon that. Because you know that you got a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, you got Klein, and you got Milano that's going to get the bulk of those snaps. Matakevich is going to be the next guy in. So your fourth, fifth, your fifth, sixth guy definitely has to play special teams, and I think that's where you see guys like Rashawn drop off, and guys like Del'Shawn thrive, and Dobson thriving as well. And then they made flashes out there when it came down to playing defense. So. Hats goes off to Del'Shawn Phillips, a guy that was low on everybody's radar, and he made the squad, man. And in this day and age, it's hard to evaluate when there's no preseason games. Yeah. So, it's just a tough evaluation right now, and you just have to trust the Bills scouts and the coaches on who's making this roster so far.
Yeah. And I think what Mookie said just right there about this is on the coaching staff. Because you think about it, they know what they have as far as a system. So now all they do is they slide that player that fits their system in there. Not having trained preseason, I mean, that had to have been tough for these guys. But that continuity that the Bills bring back, all the coaching staff really helped them determine what type of players they wanted. So having that system in place, I feel bad for some of these teams that have a new head coach because they didn't have that opportunity. But I want to know, when was the last time we had our whole coaching staff returning for 3 years in a row? It had to be Marv's staff, right?
Yeah. Well, Dick Zaran, we don't want to get into that, do we?
Well, he went 2.5.
He got extended. I ain't gonna never forget that Ralph Wilson said at the end of the game that Dick Zaran was the greatest coach in Bills history, and then I knew that at that point Ralph was a little soft. Say that.
Oh God!
Ralph went on to say, "I guess it was a big game that the Bills came back."
Jesus Christ!
And he went on and said that, "Yeah, Dick Duran's the best coach." I was like, "Nuts!" Like, was Marv Levy next to him when he said that, or something like, "What the hell?" But yeah, we want to get into the Dick Duran, era.
It's not happening tonight, Mook. I'm sorry. I can't let that happen tonight. It's been too good of a day to let that kind of shit ruin the day. All right? It's too good of a day. So
let me just cut Dick Duran again.
He's somewhere. He has a job somewhere.
Sure. He's somewhere cut right now.
Somewhere cut. Not a head coach in the league no more. But it's been a big day, fellas. Thank you all for your time to join me tonight. Thank you to everybody watching. A shout out to Cold Front Nation. Man, you guys were killing my notifications today. Killing them. Shout out to John Sparacco. Shout out to Leroy Mud Dog Winslow. Of course, Jeremy Turner Montgomery. Thank you all for joining us. James, any parting words?
Hey, man, we got to talk about Mike Love making the roster too, right? Mike Love.
I got him as he didn't make it.
Mike made it, right?
No.
He got cut?
Yeah.
Mike got cut?
No, I don't think he did.
Yeah. Release defensive end Mike Love.
He got cut?
Daryl Johnson made it.
Okay, DJ made it. I knew DJ.
Yeah, Mike Love got cut.
Mike Love got cut. Okay, I was making sure. Just checking temperatures out there. But practice squad, we have to see. Trey Adams, majority of all those guys that they cut is going to be on the practice squad.
Christian Wade has a chance to come back too.
Yeah, Christian Wade's coming back. He's coming back. Like he's locked in. He's like an untouchable player right now. Anyway, like ain't nobody touch him. He's 29 years old. Okay, let's just say that he's 29 years old and he's learning the game. So no other team is going to pick him up. He's going to be on the Bills until it's over. And I think that he'll probably latch some front office job within the organization as well because of that. So Christian Wade, don't worry about it, Bills fans. C. Wade will still be here. You know, he still got a way to learn, right? Still learning.
They're crazy about Christian Wade, man. They'll go crazy. You even start to whisper the first word of it, the first letter of it, they go crazy. They will go crazy. They are crazy about Christian Wade. They think
the man didn't even know how to take a handoff last year. Like,
yeah, he didn't even know what's an A gap.
Handoff in a game like this.
Bobby Boucher, just run.
Yeah, pretty much all he had to do was run, and he kind of made a move. He scored.
Back at that level. I've seen guys cut. I ain't gonna go there, but the man took a handoff like this. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go sit down.
You grabbed a.
I can tell you what, though, don't be surprised this week if you still see moves being made. But all right, now Brandon Beane, he's real masterful around this time. You have to take a look at certain things. Like, this guy's not done, and the Bills have not made a splash since they brought in Steph Diggs. Don't be surprised if you see another big name just, that got cut, or maybe the Bills, might come in on a little trade or something like that. You never know. The Bills are constantly working in that front office to make this team better. So don't be surprised that another big splash could be happening after the roster. You know what I mean? So don't be surprised. It might be another corner because we still a little light in that area. Even the linebacker situation is still, topsy-turvy. They're still looking for that. They haven't really brought in a linebacker. They haven't brought in. They've been working them out, but they haven't really brought one in. The guy that they brought in, they cut. So be on the lookout for a cornerback or potentially another linebacker to be the next Bills move.
I mean, hey, if Brandon Beane sticks with his tendencies from this past offseason, it sounds like he's going to be trading a player for a pick or trading for a linebacker or corner within the next 15 minutes, Mook.
Right, because look, we're in a good position right now. Draft picks, we don't need them.
No,
but we know how Brandon Beane loves those draft picks. Brandon Beane loves those draft picks, boy. He hangs them right down in his communion sock.
Those draft picks are serving their purpose right now.
Absolutely.
Everybody's locked up under contract for the next 4 or 5 years. So we're going to be potentially making the playoffs every year. So that pick is going to be 20, 28, 30, hopefully 32.
It's going to be 32.
And we'll trade it out, get another 2 2s or a 3. And
whoa, there's some crazy stuff going on here. I hear all sorts of stuff. All right.
Is that Mookie?
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. Don't want to cooperate right now.
All right. Well, with that,
he might have cut the cord by mistake.
Mookie, any parting words for tonight's show? There's some sort of lag going on here.
I guess you're done. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. I think it's time. Sign off, man.
Yeah, it's time for us to sign off. It looks like the podcast wants to kick us off. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to tune in to the Yak Podcast with Jamie Turner Montgomery and our friend James Mallory right on the screen. But be sure to tune in to the Overtime Podcast with myself and Jeff Uvino. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Cold Front Report and follow us on Instagram at Cold Front Report _Bills News. It looks like Mookie went to go say something, but I couldn't hear anything. All right,
1 week away. 1 week away.
1 week.
Let's go.
1 week from tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in and have a good night.
Bye, guys. Good night.